All right, what's up out there to all of my fellow gold diggers? This is your girl Rita, also known as the self-proclaimed gold digger. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. I am so glad to have you. But if you are a fellow gold digger and part of the gold digger fam, welcome back. Y'all know I love and I appreciate each and every one of you. So tonight it is Tipsy Tuesday. We have been following along in Tiffany Aliche's book called Get Good with Money. It came out, I want to say, in like 2020 or 2021. And we've been breaking down each chapter. Tonight's chapter, we are going to be talking about retirement. Okay. Now, before I get into this particular topic, let me just check my social media accounts and make sure everything is good. And then we are going to get started. If you are new to Tipsy Tuesday, basically, hold on. All right. Looks like yes, and we are good there. All right, so if you're new to Tipsy Tuesday, basically what we do is we take some sips as I share some tips with you. I always say you don't have to drink anything alcoholic. All I'm drinking on tonight is just some water, and that's all. So, shout out to my good friend on last week, Tiffany Warren, who came in. She talked to us about insurance because the previous week we talked about the insurance chapter, and she answered our insurance questions, and she did such a wonderful job with answering our questions. So if you have not seen that episode, please be sure to check it out if you did miss it. But tonight, yes, we are going to be talking about retirement. And this chapter, I will say I said I was going to save this chapter because it is a lengthy and kind of in-depth chapter. I hope y'all have the book and are following along and stuff like that. If you don't have the book, I highly suggest you get it so you can read it and get an understanding. She really does a great job of breaking down the different retirement accounts. And I am just going to be highlighting some of the stuff that she talked about, but she definitely does go into more detail that I just cannot cover in one night. So please, please, please be sure to check it out. Now, I won't say fun fact, but part of and when I started this YouTube channel, in the beginning, I was really focused on like paying off debt. I did a video about my student loan debt, and I talked a little bit about the FIRE movement, which is the FIRE movement stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early, because I was seeing a lot of information at that time about people who were part of the FIRE movement. Which is just like these, I won't say young people, but pretty much it is like younger people finding ways to have early retirement. And with retirement, I know all of us, or a lot of us think of when you retire, you plan on not working anymore. And I know we think about most times when we think about retirement, we're thinking about retiring when we're older, 65, 70, that kind of thing. But the FIRE movement kind of totally shifted my viewpoint of retirement and saying that you could retire early. Now, I always had the mindset of I wanted to retire early. Now, I was thinking retire early, like I wanted to retire like by age 50, no later than like age 55. But seeing these people talking about retiring, and some of these people were like in their 30s, their 40s and stuff like that. It just totally shifted my viewpoint, my mindset when it came to retirement, when they showed me that this is very well possible that you can retire as early as in your 30s and stuff like that if you do the necessary things. Now, we're not really talking about the FIRE movement, but I will say this: if you get serious about your retirement and saving up for retirement, and if you start early enough, you very well could be part of the FIRE movement and be able to retire early. Now, a lot of people who are or from my understanding, the people who are part of the FIRE movement, they are not like really retired, like doing nothing. Like they're still pretty active and doing things, but they're just doing more stuff of what they want to do, and they don't necessarily have to work. It's like they choose to work. And that is the position and the standpoint that I'm taking. Like, I want to be able to, at age 50, to say, hey, I do not have to work anymore if I don't want to. If you see me still working, it's because I choose to work, not because I have to work. So I want to get my finances in order so that I can put myself in a position where I am able to do that and not have to be working the rest of my life, or just relying on a certain income for the rest of my life in order to sustain myself, be able to pay my bills. And it all comes through retirement. Now, I will say, with me having my own business, there are certain challenges that I have been presented with when it comes to retiring early or being able to retire at all. So there are things that I'm working on for myself to kind of put things in place. There are certain goals that I am trying to achieve to put myself in that particular position, but it's not impossible. And as you probably know, when it comes to retirement, the earlier you start, the better off you are, just because of this thing called compound interest. Most people are investing their money in terms of like stock market for long-term investment. Not, you can invest in different ways in the stock market, or you can use the stock market in different ways, like through trading and things of that nature. But I'm talking about using the stock market for retirement. So if you do that and you start at a very, very early age, like in your early 20s, you can like stop contributing to it at, I forget what there's some kind of like example that people will use. I forget, like you can start at like 20 or 25 or something like that, and say like you invested for, I don't know, 10 years. I forget what the example says. And it's like, if you stopped investing, you would have more money compared to someone who started investing, let's say when they were 35 or whatever, and they had to continue investing like, for the next 20 years just to get what you invested. Now, those are not the hard and fast numbers. I don't remember that specific example that's usually used, but it's like, if you start investing early, even if you stopped investing after you've invested for so many years, you can still beat someone who started investing late. So the earlier, the main takeaway is, the earlier you start investing, the better off you will be. And even if you do start late, just start. It's just better to start and not worry about any time that you missed. Okay. So I'm still planning on retiring early. And this was helpful information for me to be able to do that. Okay. So we're going to get into it. Excuse me. We're going to talk about, and I'm going to definitely be referring to my notes in regards to some of this stuff, to make sure I'm giving y'all the correct information. Please also keep in mind the book came out in 2020 or 2021. So I did not look up the current data for what is some of the retirement criteria for some of these accounts that are effective today. So please just know some of the numbers that I might give you in terms of like how much you can invest in the retirement account might actually be different than when the actual book was published. Hopefully it's actually more than what I'm probably telling you, just because of inflation and things of that nature. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get into it as we talk about retirement. So she mentions in the book, your retirement plan is for you to be able to take care of your future self. And I will say this, every chapter she has, it always starts off with like making sure you're in the right mindset. We have talked about this so much on this channel, making sure you have the right money mindset, making sure you have the right focus when it comes to your finances. And it's continually reiterated throughout the book, because you do have to have the right mindset in order to be able to achieve your goals. Otherwise, if you don't see your end result or whatever, or see what you're working towards, you can easily like talk yourself out of different things. So you have to have the right mindset when it comes to that. And so what she talks about is that she gives her future self, her old lady self, because she's a female, she gives her future self a name, and her name is Wanda. And she thinks of herself as like this old lady named Wanda. Like, what would Wanda do? Like, if she decided to, I don't know, splurge and make a purchase today, how would that affect Wanda in the future in her retirement years? Like, is that going to negatively impact Wanda when she is retired? And that's kind of like what we have to think about now. And it's hard to think about ourselves in the future or think of ourselves getting older because, it's not always the most fun or glamorous thing to think about. But you really have to take that into consideration. Like, hey, how is this going to affect my future self? Am I going to be able to retire and live comfortably like I'm used to living? Or is this going to negatively impact me and derail or deter some of my retirement goals? So that is how she is kind of looking at it. To help you stay focused and keep your mindset on it. So think of your future self. What would your future self look like? What do you want your future self to be able to do? What do you envision them doing on a day-to-day basis? Like, do you see them going to work? Do you see them still having to clock in and clock out of a job? Hopefully not. Hopefully in your latter years, you are seeing yourself actually enjoying your time with family, with friends that are still around, that kind of thing, and just taking it easy and being able to relax and do some of the things that you want to do. Okay. So get the right mindset when it comes to thinking about your retirement and everything. And let's see. Y'all, I got to talking. Excuse me. What's up, April? Good to see you. She says, hello, all. And thank y'all to everyone who is joining and those who would catch the replay as well. It is good to see everyone. April, I hadn't seen you in a while. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about is she has four different goals. I don't know. But each chapter, yes, 4 different things for you to do in this particular chapter. And this chapter also talks about investing for wealth. We are not going to touch upon this tonight because, like I said, this already is a lot of information. But there is the 4% rule. This is also really popular in the FIRE community. And basically what the 4% rule is, what you do is you multiply your annual expenses. Keyword is expenses. You multiply your annual expenses by 25. When you do that, that will give you the number that you would need to retire. And she recommends using the expenses because whatever your current bills are, that kind of thing, that is what you're going to probably still have. Your expenses might potentially increase as you get older, but whatever your expenses are, multiply that by 25. That is how much you need in your retirement accounts to be able to retire comfortably. When you have that number, you should be able to draw 4% of that money out of your retirement accounts annually and still be able to sustain yourself in retirement. So I'm going to pull out my calculator really, really quickly. And I'm just going to use a number. Let's say your expenses are $50,000 a year. These are, once again, expenses. You can also do it by your income, but if you do it by your income, the number is going to be higher because hopefully your expenses are less than your income and hopefully you're not living paycheck to paycheck. If you are living paycheck to paycheck, your income and your expenses are pretty much going to be the same. And if that is the case for you, you probably want to check out probably like the first video I did when I talked about Get Good with Money. And that's where she breaks down like you doing your budget and everything and how you can try and find ways to reduce your expenses and find some extra cash in your particular budget. So 50,000 times 25, that is 1.25 million. So that is what you would need in your account. If your expenses were $50,000 a year, you would need at least 1.25 million in order to be able to retire comfortably and be able to withdraw 4% of that money each year, and your money never run out. Like your retirement money never runs out. And that is the reason why I say it never runs out is because it's based off of most people's retirement accounts are in the stock market. Usually the return that we have been averaging from the stock market has been like around 8 to 9%. Sometimes it's been higher. So if the stock market continues to average that 8 to 9%, you should be able to comfortably withdraw 4% of that money and still have your money grow and build off of the interest, off of the compound interest. Okay. Now, if your expenses were higher, let's say your expenses were 70,000, or let's just say your income is 70,000. You're like, I don't want to base it off of my expenses. I want to base it off of my income so that I can live, comfortably. So let's say your income is $70,000 a year. So times 25. If that's the case, you need 1.75 million in your retirement accounts in order to be able to retire comfortably, be able to draw down 4% each year, so that you are able to live. Okay. So just keep that in mind. That is the 4% rule. You just multiply whatever your expenses are times 25. That's what you need to have in your retirement accounts in order to retire comfortably. And if you want to take it the next step further, you can see like, well, how much is that I need to put away in savings and that kind of thing too. And so she also talked about the rule of 72. The rule of 72 just means that whatever interest rate you're getting, like say on your investment or anything you're putting money into, even if it's like just a bank account or whatever, or a savings account. The rule of 72 lets you know how long it would take for your money to double. And with that, you take your interest rate and you divide 72 by your interest rate, or whatever interest rate you're getting on your particular account, and you will see how long it would take for your money to double. So let's say I use the stock market. Like, let's say you're with the stock market accounts, we're getting an interest rate of 8% on any money that we invest. So if we divide 8 into 72, that means it will take 9 years for our money to double. So let's say you invested $10,000 into the stock market, you're getting an 8% return. It's going to take 9 years for that money to double. So that is why they say, like, do not use a savings account or like some of these regular bank accounts, because you're getting less than like a percentage of interest. So it's going to take forever for your money to double. Now, with some of these high yield savings accounts, some of these have interest rates of like 4%, 5%, that kind of thing. Let's just see, if you did not put your money into like retirement account, let's say you only have means to put it into some high yield savings account, let's see how long it would take if you were getting 4%. And with the savings accounts, that interest rate can go up or down depending on like how inflation is, how the economy is going, and that kind of thing. So, but let's just say you're getting a decent rate at 4% interest in your savings account. So whatever money you invested, if we divide that into 72, even with that, even though you feel like you might be getting a good interest rate in that savings account, it would take 18 years for the money to double. So just be mindful of that. And that's why most people, when it comes to these investment accounts, they are in the stock market. So let's talk about the different stock market accounts. Okay. And I'm letting y'all know, especially for these, I am going to be relying heavily on my notes, because there was a couple of things I'm confused about. I'm gonna have to go and do some research on my own to make sure I'm fully understanding everything. So if anything is confusing, let me know, but I may or may not be able to answer the question. So the 4 main retirement accounts that she talks about are the 401k or a 403b, the traditional IRA, the Roth IRA, and the SEP IRA. So once again, y'all, this is another episode where it's a lot of alphabet soup and everything, but I promise you, I am going to break each of these accounts down to the best of my abilities, because I took copious notes. Okay. Copious notes. All right, let's see. Really quickly too. BC. April says, okay, so 250K for me is what I need. Bare bones, no fancy living. All right, well, that's it. That's not bad, April, for you. And did you do it off of your expenses or off of your income? She said, if you want to have a bigger cushion, you can do it off of your income. I'm more inclined to doing it off of my income, just because even though my expenses probably should be less, like you probably will have like if you have a mortgage, your mortgage might be paid off. You don't have to worry about, if you have kids, you probably won't have to be worrying about paying for them to go to college and stuff like that. So some of those expenses will be gone. But I think some of them will be replaced by like other expenses, like, healthcare, taking care of yourself, doctor's visits, that kind of thing. So I'm more inclined to do it based off that 4% rule based off of my income, just so I can make sure I have like a little cushion. Because I know my expenses should be lower, but I'm like, what other expenses might I incur in my old age and everything? What's up, Ann? Good to see you. She says, hi, everyone. Oh, and thank you. Love that lip cover. It's actually a combination. I combined two different colors, but thank you. All right, so let's get into it. So the first savings account that she talks about is the one that is most common, which is the 401k or the 403b. So a 401k is what you often hear. That is usually provided by your employer. The retirement accounts that are supplied by your employer. The 403b, that is usually more so, it's pretty much the same thing as a 401k, but it's reserved for nonprofits, schools, and government employees. So if you work for the government, you probably have a 403b versus the 401k. And basically, you get money, or you can contribute to your retirement account is set up through your employer, and you can contribute money to your retirement account that way. And sometimes your employer will have what's called an employer match, where let's say you contribute, I don't know, if you contribute 3%, they might match it and contribute another 3% into your retirement account. Or they could possibly have a profit share, and that is where they give you some extra money. You're not required to contribute to like a retirement account, but you might have what's called a profit share, where they share some of the profit and everything with you. Okay. So that is with the 401k. Now there is some other information. I'm trying to look for it. Okay. So now here's also the key takeaways too that I want y'all to pay attention to when it comes to these retirement accounts. Some accounts the money is contributed before taxes are taken out, and sometimes the money is contributed after taxes are taken out. Some of these have limits to them. Some of them, they don't necessarily, I won't say they don't have a limit. So those are the key things or that you should pay attention to. Are you contributing to that retirement account with pre-tax money or after tax money? And with the 401k or the 403b, you are contributing to it with pre-tax money. Now, when you leave your company, like say you quit or you got a promotion or you got a new job or something like that, if you leave that job and you had a 401k, you can either choose to leave the money with the company, and it would continue to grow with interest or whatever, but you wouldn't be contributing to it or anything like that. Or you can choose to roll the money over into a different type of account that we are going to talk about as well. So if you leave an employer, and I know sometimes there were people who started working different jobs, left a job, that kind of thing, and they have these 401ks all over the place, and they might have left them there or whatever. Just if you've left your 401k with a certain employer, or you had multiple employers where you left your 401k, you just want to make sure you stay on top of that stuff and stay on top of those accounts so you can see how it's growing. Because even though you're not contributing to it, it should still be growing in terms of interest. Okay. Yes. So you can choose to leave it there, or you can let it roll over into an IRA, which we are going to talk about momentarily. Now, they say where she mentioned that the 401k is usually managed by a third party. At the time that she wrote the book, you can contribute a significant amount to this one. It's usually higher than any of the other retirement accounts. If you are under the age of 50, you yourself can contribute $19,500. Like I said, this is where I'm talking about the number has probably changed since the book was published. If you're over 50, you can contribute $26,000. Now, your employer can contribute up to $37,500 on your behalf. So, if you add all that up, I don't know what it is, but it's close to, what is that, 4757. So it's like $58,000, possibly 60 something if you're over 50. So these have the highest contributions, and this is per year. So when the year starts over, these amounts start over. But in one calendar year, you can contribute roughly $19,500 if you're under 50, 26,000 if you're over 50. And the reason why you can contribute more if you're over 50 is because they have what's called like catch-up contributions that allow you to catch up if you missed investing, like if you started investing late. So that's a good thing that they allow you to kind of catch up and contribute a little bit more as you get older. Okay. Now, we talked about, now also too, if you decide to withdraw money early from your 401k, there are some penalties that can be associated with it, like a 10%. I think it was like a 10% penalty. I'm not seeing it in my notes, but I do remember her mentioning that. Now, the next type, let me see if there were any questions about that. Really quick before I go to the traditional IRA. We have a traditional IRA, Roth IRA, and then the SEP IRA. April says, my bare expenses, little studio bills, food. I can't afford. I can't afford kids in this budget. I can't even afford. Girl, stop a relationship. You could make it work. You never know. The relationship, depending on how serious it gets, if y'all get married at it could possibly double, triple your income. But don't get married for those reasons. All right. So a traditional IRA, it actually stands for IRA. I never even knew, because we hear all these different acronyms. It stands for Individual Retirement Account. And this is an account that you yourself set up and contribute money to have when you retire. With this account, you have more choice. So like I mentioned with the 401k, that's usually managed by a third party. Your company has it already set up for you. So you don't get to pick and choose like what stocks or you want to invest in. But with a traditional IRA, you pretty much are setting it up so you have more choice into what you want to invest into. Now, if you were leaving a job and you had a 401k, you can roll over that 401k from your previous employer into a traditional Roth IRA. And with that rollover, there is no maximum amount that you have, but you are only allowed to do one rollover in a 12-month period. Okay. Now, this one too is what they call like a tax deferred account. So you only pay taxes on it once you withdraw the money. Okay. So the money is contributed to it before taxes are accounted for. So when you withdraw it, eventually, you're going to have to pay taxes at some time. Either you're going to pay taxes before, or you're going to pay taxes after. So if you're putting money into any of these accounts before taxes are taken out, when you do withdraw, that is when you're going to pay taxes. So the 401k is pre-tax money, and the traditional IRA is also pre-tax money. So that's why I say you want to pay attention to these different accounts and the special stipulations within those. But any of your contributions are tax deductible. So that means, let's say we used the example before, like if you were making $50,000 a year and you decided to contribute $10,000 to your IRA, then instead of you being taxed on $50,000, you're actually only going to be taxed on $40,000 since you use $10,000 to contribute to your retirement. Okay. Now, you can only contribute, once again, I'm going to mention the caveat. The numbers have probably changed since this book was published. I want to say it's higher because at one point in time I had looked at it, but it's been like a while since I've looked at the numbers. So you can only contribute $6,000 a year if you're under the age of 50. But if you're over age 50, you can contribute $7,000 a year. Okay. So that's why it is beneficial if you do have a 401k at another company and you leave that company, it's probably good to roll it over into a traditional IRA, and she mentioned this in the book, because you yourself can only contribute a certain amount a year, okay? And if you withdraw it early, there is a 10% penalty. And by early, they mean before you reach age 59 and a half. All right, so that was the traditional IRA. All right. Let's see. Ann Can says, my mother always wanted me to start an IRA. I never did it. I just got my retirement plan through work. Well, that's good. As long as you're contributing through work, that can still work out. There's actually another type of IRA. Maybe this is the one that your mom might have been referring to that we're going to talk about, which they recommend you to contribute to this one prior to contributing to the traditional IRA, and that is the Roth IRA. Now, the Roth IRA is, you contribute to that after the money has been taxed. So this is after tax money, you put that into the Roth IRA. So that might be what she was talking about, you setting up on your own, because usually any money you've had or that you get from your job, like through your paycheck, it's already been taxed and everything. So she might have been referring to the Roth IRA. So this is money that has already been taxed. There is, and what I found out too, she says there's no minimum age requirement to open a Roth IRA as long as you have earned income from a job. So you can open a minor Roth IRA account. And also with the Roth IRA, you do not have to start withdrawing money from it at a certain age. So with most of these retirement accounts, they kind of make you start withdrawing the money because, you know, that was the whole reason why you invested into it. It was a retirement account. So you can't just let the money sit for a lot of these accounts. You have to start taking at least some kind of withdrawal from it. But with the Roth IRA, you don't have to withdraw from it at a certain age. You can actually leave your money in there, and you can pass it on to like your family members as part of your inheritance. Now, she recommended, Tiffany, the author, recommended for you to do a Roth IRA first before a traditional IRA, because there is a certain amount that you can make in order to contribute to it. So, and once again, these numbers have probably changed as well. So if you are an individual, so meaning if you are single, if you make over 139K, you can't contribute to the Roth IRA. Or if you're married, if you make over 206,000, you cannot contribute to a Roth IRA. So this is one of the accounts you want to get started, you know, earlier if you can, before you start making a lot more money. Because once you hit that certain income limit, you won't be able to contribute to the Roth IRA anymore. Then the only option you would have would be to contribute to the traditional IRA. So she had suggested in her book, like, if you have any extra money to contribute to a retirement account, start with a Roth, because it does have that income limit to it. And then, you know, if you've hit that income limit, then you can look into doing a traditional Roth IRA, traditional IRA. All right. I hope that makes sense. Hope I'm not confusing anybody. And then the last one is what we call a SEP IRA. I always thought, because I knew I was looking into this since I am self-employed and I knew it was for business owners. I always thought the SEP IRA stand for self-employed plan. Found out it did not. It stands for Simplified Employee Pension IRA. So it does not, SEP does not stand for self-employed. It stands for Simplified Employee Pension, but it does apply for most people who are self-employed. But only your company can contribute to the SEP plan on your behalf, okay? So you can't just take your income, like say if you are self-employed, you can't just take your money and contribute to the SEP RA. It's the business that actually has to contribute to the SEP RA. So kind of like similar to the 401k, like your 401k is set up by your employer or whoever you work with, and if they do a match, they're contributing money on your behalf. Same thing with the SEP. The money that you contribute, it has to come from your company. And with that one, there's a limit of 57,000 if you're under the age of 50. Okay. And this is also invested pre-tax money. So those were the four main retirement accounts that she talked about. Really, really quickly, I'm going to give a recap. We had the 401k or the 403b. They are essentially the same. The 403b is just usually for if you work for a school, a nonprofit, or for the government, but it's the same thing as a 401k. This is set up by your actual employer, so you don't have much, say so on, where the money is invested, so to speak. You do contribute a certain amount, or you can contribute a certain amount, and oftentimes your employee will have a match where they will match what you contributed to that. Then we had the traditional IRA, and IRA just stands for individual retirement accounts. This one, you can set it up, like you can determine how you want the money to be invested and everything. So you can do that. Now, this one is also done with pre-tax money. And if you are under the age of 50, you can contribute 6,000. Like I mentioned before, that number has probably changed. If you're over 50, you can contribute 7,000 into a traditional IRA. Also, if you have left a job and where you had a 401k plan, you can roll that old 401k from your employer into a traditional IRA. Okay. So just be mindful of that. The Roth IRA, this is money that you can contribute after tax, but there is an income limit associated with that. So if you're making over 139,000, if you're an individual, or 206,000, if you're married, like I said, those numbers are probably a little bit different now. But if you're making over that, whatever that limit is set for the Roth IRA, you cannot create a Roth IRA. You can only create a traditional IRA. And you can set up a Roth IRA for a minor child that you have. So just be mindful of that. You can possibly set that up for them so that they can start retiring, have their retirement account start growing early. And also, one of the benefits of the Roth IRA is you are not forced to take money out at a certain age, like with the other retirement plans. And the other one, the last one we talked about, was the SEP IRA. This is the Simplified Employee Pension. This is more so for business owners, and your business must contribute to this particular account. It is also on pre-tax dollars. Okay. All right. So those were the retirement accounts. Really quickly, there are some terms that she listed. She called it investing, like vocabulary, that I'm going to go over with you really quickly. This is where I got confused, y'all, with some of the terminology and everything. She also, I will mention this, even though I'm not really going to cover this too much. She did mention this particular chapter that delved into retirement. It was also a wealth building chapter. So she talked about retirement accounts first, and then she started talking about wealth building. But she said, she highly recommended, don't worry about building wealth unless you have your retirement accounts firmly established and you're making sure like you're funding them on a consistent basis and that kind of thing. She wants to make sure that you are set up for retirement before you start focusing on building wealth. And with that, there are other ways that you can invest your money to kind of help grow and build wealth, which is why I'm going to touch upon some of these vocabulary terms, because you probably heard these thrown around or heard people talking about it, and that's how people are able to make money. All right, so one of the vocabulary terms she mentioned is stocks. Everybody hears about stocks. Hopefully y'all know what stocks are. It's just a portion or a piece of ownership in a particular company. With stocks, they can quickly grow or they can not grow. They can drop in value, but they are a more aggressive form of investment in the ways that, they can become more valuable fairly quickly and everything. And then bonds, that is a loan to a company or state, and the company or state actually uses the money to run their business or do projects. And because you have invested in the bond, they give you a portion back for you loaning the money to them. I put loaning in air quotes, but you're really like loaning the money to a company or a state. And just like with a bank, like if you got a loan from a bank, you pay interest or whatever, and the bank is making money off of the interest. So with a bond, that's how you're making money. They're paying you a small interest rate off of that money and everything. So the bonds, they do not change as quickly as a stock, as most people know. And you want to have, she suggests having like a good credit mix of stocks and bonds. And there was another rule that she used. Let me see if I can find it. I want to say it was a rule. I don't know if I'm quoting it right, but I know it's like I want to say it's the rule of 110. Basically, I'm looking through my notes, y'all. I don't know if that's the right name of it, but basically what you do is you take 110 and subtract your age from it. So let's just use the age of 40. So if we subtract 40 from 110, that leaves us with, what is that, 70? So 70% of whatever that number you're left with, that is what is recommended for you to invest in stocks. And then 30, because that'll take you to 100, 30% of that should be invested in bonds. So that way, as you get older, your investments in stock starts decreasing and your investments in bonds starts increasing, just because bonds are a little bit more stable. And the closer you get to the retirement age, you want to have your investments in more stable investments that are not going to be as volatile as stocks, so that you don't, lose your money. So that is the rule that they use, the rule of 110. You just subtract your age from 110, and that gives you the number, whatever number you have, that's the number that you should be using to invest in stocks. And whatever the remaining percentage is, up to 100, that's what you should be using to invest in bonds. All right, y'all. Now, this is where it got a little confusing for me, where I'm going to have to do my own research and make sure I'm actually understanding what she was trying to say. So she talked about mutual funds. And basically, mutual funds are just, she says, it's a collection of stocks, bonds, or other securities. You are buying these stocks with a group of other people who have mutual interests, like y'all want similar stuff. So that is why it's called a mutual fund. So it's like a group of people buying similar stocks and bonds and stuff like that. And she used the example, she said it's like starting a GoFundMe account with strangers. Now, this is where I got confused. She says that mutual funds cannot be bought and sold throughout the trading day. They can only be purchased once daily after the stock market closes, and is usually professionally managed. Now, she also talks about ETFs, which are exchange traded funds. And she says that's like a mix of a stock and a mutual fund, and is a basket of different types of investments. But she says it can be bought and sold or traded in the stock market during trading hours. But then later on, she says it can only be done like after the stock market close. This is where I got confused. I don't know. So I don't really know what the difference is between mutual funds and exchange traded funds. If y'all know, tell me, because I don't know the difference. And then we talked about index funds, and it's just a fund where investments are closely tracked by a market index. All right, let me see. Maybe y'all can help me out. Okay, so Ann says, yes, a Roth IRA. All right, awesome. Yes, because that one is better. Just because you get cut off from it once you start making a certain amount of money. And she says, yes, that's what she wanted me to do. April says, I got to find the nerve to invest in stocks. I'm so scared to lose my investment. Are you talking about your investment like into a 401k, or you just talking about your investment in general, that kind of thing? For the most part, like, y'all, I will say this, my long-term investments, I really do not pay attention to. They are in an account. I have it. I think they send me, I know they send me stuff at least a month, each month. To say I look at it, I don't really look at it. And I know that's bad. I need to get better at that. And it's just because I know it is for my retirement. I'm not at the point I want to retire. I need to see, am I on track to retire? So that's why I do need to look into it and everything. Each month that they send me out the statement just to see, see where I am. And then I do, like little Robin Hood stuff that I do now that, and even that I have, I will purchase a certain amount of certain stocks from like Robinhood. That's my own little investment on the side. I expect to make money off of it, but I don't think it's like my retirement account, so to speak. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to, April, or not. With the Robinhood stuff, I don't invest more than what I'm willing to lose. So it's just a small amount that I contribute each month and buy some stocks with or whatever. But the other one, that one, I won't say I set it and forget it, but that's kind of what I do. And I haven't really looked at it, but I do need to get better about it. And April says, in general, would I invest into the stock market? Okay, so have you started investing? Because that's kind of, I will say this. You may want to look into, what was it? Like the Roth IRA? Because that's probably going to be what the easiest one to set up with. April says, no, I would have to look at it. I guess I haven't looked at it because, like in the beginning, that's what I said. I need to look at it now. In the beginning, when you first start off, it's only a little bit of money. So you look at it and you're like, dang, that's all I got. So, and then you look at it again and you're like, oh, dang, that's still all I got. So it hasn't like hit, I'm sure now, because it's been a while since I looked at it, that now it's probably starting to grow. But it's like, it's kind of like looking at your bank account over and over and over again, like, or your savings account. Like, even though it's making, like, even with some of the high yield savings accounts where you're getting like 4% interest, it's not changing it's not changing a whole lot from month to month. So that's why I'm like, okay, that's all I got. April says, yes, stocks as a retirement fund. So yeah, so you probably want to look into, now, let me put this disclaimer out. I'm not any financial expert, guru, retirement, none of those things. I'm just a girl on YouTube. That's all I am, talking about my own experiences. But you probably want to look into a Roth IRA, and getting that set up. And it's pretty easy to get those accounts set up and everything too. Through like, and I'm not recommending anybody, but the one I use is Fidelity. I can't even think of any of the other people or whatever, but seeing how you can set it up with Fidelity, it's pretty like quick and easy to do it. And you can just contribute like a small amount each month and let it grow. I want to say when I first set it up, like you kind of pick what you're kind of like interested in, so to speak. But it wasn't anything too cumbersome. They're really quick, anything that's going to take your money, they're going to try and make it as easy for you as possible. But like I said, they do send a statement I want to say it's every month, because I see the little emails popping up. It might be every month, every quarter, I don't know. But they do send it to me on a regular basis for me to see how things are going and everything. And then April, okay, Ann Can says, April, you might want to try an index fund. It's a lot of stocks that you would invest in. Yes, and usually with like with these IRAs and stuff like that, you are looking at, it's like a fund or whatever, like what Ann Can is saying. It's an index fund that you are investing in. And I guess I did take notes about the different funds. Hold on. Let me find out where the notes are about that, so I can quickly tell y'all about those. Okay, so it's probably, you said an index fund. All right, so here's the other thing. This is another definition. So an index fund, she said that the goal is not for it to beat the market, but to mirror or match the market. So an index fund is more passively managed, and hence the index funds have lower fees associated with it. A mutual fund, the goal of that is to beat the market. And with mutual funds, most of these are actively managed by like a fund manager. And because there's someone actively managing it, the fees are higher. So just know that with the index fund, it is trying to match the market. And with the mutual fund, they are actually trying to beat the market. And some examples of index funds are like what they talk about on the news, like the S&P 500, and that includes, 500 of the biggest brands in the US. I want to say it's the US. And how they're doing. The Dow Jones, it represents 30 of the largest companies, but of well-known companies. And so you might see some overlap with the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones. Like some of these big companies are going to show up in the S&P 500 as well as in the Dow Jones. And then they also have the NASDAQ, which is an index fund. And the NASDAQ represents mostly technology companies and smaller startups. Okay. So those are the difference. But yeah, with those funds, you're going to it's like looking at, it's like looking at a sector of the market. So I'm trying to remember when I set it up. You can kind of like choose what area you want to invest in. Like say if you did want to do something that was more healthcare related or whatever, they might have a healthcare index fund that you can invest your money in. Or if you want to do tech related stuff, there's a tech index fund that you can invest in. Or if you just want it to be just like what they were saying, like a broad sense of the whole stock market, there are funds that you can set it up with and invest in that when it comes to your retirement accounts and everything. So I hope that is helpful. Leah, what is up? Good to see you, girl. I hope you've been doing well. Leah says, I have both a Roth and a traditional IRA. So that's good, Leah. That is really, really good. We were just saying with the Roth, it's just once you hit a certain income limits, you won't be able to contribute to the Roth, and then you will only be able to contribute to the traditional one. Now, I know there are probably other ways for you to invest. These are like the basics. So don't think this is the end all be all. But if you're thinking about getting into like investments, this is like the basics. This is where you should kind of start off and look into before you start venturing into some of these other things. These are also probably some of the safest ways to invest. Before you start looking into some other things to invest your money in. So this is the more traditional stuff. And I always say this, if your company, like say with the 401ks, they are probably, they're investing in the stock market or whatever. And it's probably just a bunch of different index funds that they are investing in. If your company, this big company that is managing a whole bunch of employees, is looking at this is the best way for us to invest in our employees' money, then this should also be a way for you to look into it as well. Like they don't want to put your money into something that is extremely risky where you're not going to get a return on your investment. Not saying you won't with some of these other things, but some of these things that are not as traditional or, tried and true or, been around like crypto and stuff like that. Not saying you can't make money with crypto and that kind of thing, but your company is probably not invested in a whole lot of crypto. It might be a small portion of your index fund or whatever, but just think about that too when it comes to investing. Like if you were in charge of 500 employees, where would you want to put your money instead of just looking at where are you, especially like according to like what April was saying, like she's really scared about investing her money because she doesn't want to lose her investment. Just look at where most people or most companies, I should say, are traditionally investing their employees' money. And that will probably be the safest direction for you to go in. Okay. April says, I love looking at my savings account over and over. April, you okay? I don't mind looking at it, but it's not growing a whole lot. I mean, other than what you contributed to it. So it's like, it's not growing in interest, so to speak. So, and April says index funds, gotta write that down. Tiffany, good to see you. So y'all remember Tiffany. Y'all show Tiffany some love. She answered our insurance questions on last week, and she did an excellent job. She says, "Hey, Rita. Good to see you, Tiffany. Thank you for joining." April says, Roth IRA, I'm writing this down. Yes, because also too, with these accounts, usually it's like right around like $6,000. Like I want to say I know it's increased. I want to say it's like around 6,600, but I could be wrong. That you can only contribute each year. And I want to say if you have like a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA, and Leah, you might be able to set me straight or not. But I want to say that $6,000, that has to be divided up between the two accounts and everything. Like I think outside of your employee, like 401k, the maximum you can contribute each year is $6,000. So if you do open up a Roth and you do open up like a traditional, I want to say like you can like if you could only contribute like 3,000 to the Roth and then the other 3,000 to the traditional. If I'm not mistaken, she did not talk about this in the book, but I want to say that's all you can, like that's the limit. Just like they have a limit on how much you can contribute to your 401k. And I guess it's because they don't want people like maxing out these accounts, and I don't know. April says index fund is a true passive income. Let me go back to my notes. I want to say it's passive because you're just picking whatever the index is, and it's pretty much managed by a computer, which might be pretty good. I know they say like for the mutual funds, it's more actively managed by like an actual person, but y'all with AI and everything and all these different algorithms, it might be better for it to be managed by a computer. So it's not someone like actively looking at your account. Is it's all the computer doing that and making adjustments, selling and buying the stock according to like how the market is going. So it's not a passive income. It's just saying it's more passively managed is what they're saying compared to the mutual fund, which is more actively managed. And then April says, oh, okay, that definitely sounds worth doing. And then she also says, very helpful. I'm glad, because I'm so glad I'm not confusing y'all. And Ken says, yes, an index fund won't be as scary because your investment is spread out. Yes, y'all, and just think about it with the companies, like with your 401k, most of those, they're not that. Yes, they are buying like individual stocks, but it's part of the index fund that you're in or whatever. Because nobody has, I won't say nobody, but people don't have time to like just be actively picking all these different stocks. So they use the index funds too, as well, to their advantage when it comes to y'all's 401k. And Leah says, LOL, I'm with April. I don't want none of us to lose our money at all. And then April's just saying, hey. And okay, thank you, Leah. Leah says, so it has increased, y'all. So it's at $6,500 is what you can contribute to those accounts. And Ken said, hello. Okay, thank you, Leah. Okay, so you can max out both. She says, I was able to max out both of them. So, and the max is $6,500. So if you have a traditional and you have a Roth IRA, you can contribute $6,500 up to each of them. And then last thing, excuse me. Okay, she says, well, Munchie's in Roth. Munchie is her daughter. Not all of them, like you said. All right. So, yes, but remember, y'all, so I'm guessing you have a Roth IRA for Munchie. With the Roth one, you can create that one for a minor as long as they're getting some kind of earned income. So just keep that in mind for your kids. If they're making some kind of money, you can open up a Roth IRA for them and everything. All right, y'all. There was one other definition that I did not mention. And this one might be a good one for you to look into as well, April, since you're saying about like you don't want to lose your money and stuff like that. and that is called a target date fund. I want to say it's date. It could be day, like DAY. I don't know, because I'm listening to it on Audible, so I don't see it in actual print. Target date fund, which is the acronym is TDF. And they said these are often mutual funds, and basically you set a target date into the future. So whatever your retirement date is, let's say you wanted, what is this, 2024. So let's say we wanted to retire in 2050. They have target date funds where you could buy into, and your target date fund is 2050. And as it gets closer to that date, it starts reallocating your investment. So let's say if we did it now, we got like 26 years to invest before it hits the target date. So now they would aggressively invest our money that we're contributing to it into stocks, and they would not invest a whole lot of our money into bonds. But as it gets closer to 2050, they are going to switch, and now we're going to be more heavily invested into bonds and less invested into stocks, because we're getting closer to our target day of when we want to retire. They don't want us to lose money if the stock market, decides to take a dip. So they reallocate our money with a target date fund. So I mentioned that too, because April, like I said, if you're worried about that, you can pick a target date fund and see, and they can adjust it as it gets closer to the date. So you don't have to worry about, hey, I'm heavily invested in these stocks and I need to change it. And also remember that rule of 110. Like I said, I don't know if that's what it's called, the rule of 110 or not. I don't know. But anyway, if you subtract your age from 110, the number you get, that's what you should be invested in stocks, or what they recommend you being invested in stocks. And then the other number up to 100 is what you would be invested in bonds. And she suggested, like, you can, if you were managing yourself, like say if you were picking your own stuff, you could adjust it based off of your age. So she was like, set a reminder in your phone, like maybe if you did it every time you turned a certain age, and let's say, at age 40, you started at 40, now at 45, I need to adjust my stock bond mix or whatever. Or you just create a target date fund. I'm not trying to do a whole bunch of stuff. All right, so let me look at the last few comments, and I'm gonna hop off because we have been talking for a good little while. April says, yep, target date fund. Are you saying that's what you're going to do? I would be curious to see. Y'all, so the book is called Get Good with Money by Tiffany Aliche. I highly recommend, if you have not started investing, or if you just feel like lost and don't know what to do with your money or how you should allocate it or anything like that, it's a good overall book just to get you on track with your finances. And she really breaks it down into like little baby steps, like, small little steps that you can take. And even if you're not ready to do investment, like hey, I don't even have enough money to invest. And she says, it doesn't really matter the amount. Like if you don't have enough money to invest, just start saving up. Like even if you only have $5 a month to save up, create an account where you're saving that $5. And then when you're ready to invest in your retirement, you'll have something saved up. But more so, she says that you're just creating that habit of saving and getting into that routine of setting stuff aside. But really, her book lays out stuff step by step. Tiffany, she used to be a teacher before she started, doing the Budgetnista and doing, mentoring and coaching and stuff like that. So she really has like a teacher's eye where she just breaks things down to make it really simple for you to understand. So even if you're not ready to invest, just getting your finances in order, getting straight with like a budget, getting a savings plan set up, this book will pretty much help you get that stuff in order, or at least give you some clarity about what you need to do, so that you can feel better about your finances. Aaliyah says, now this sounds interesting. Are you talking about the target date fund? Is that what you're referring to? And then April says, that sounds good. And Aaliyah asks, would an index fund be considered stocks? Yes, it is considered stocks. So it's just a bunch of different stocks of a different, so like of a certain group. So like there's the So like I was saying, like the S&P 500 is an index. It's just an index of stocks. So it's just like somebody said, hey, I'm taking this particular portion of stocks and this is what I'm going to track. So the S&P 500 is tracking the top 500 companies in the US. The Dow, I think that's the one that's looking at a smaller sector or a smaller index of companies. I think it's only like 30. And so there's just these different groups of stocks that they decide to look at or whatever, and that's all the index fund is. And that's why you'll see like some people are invested in technology index funds, some people are invested in healthcare index funds. It's part of, you know, a certain sector of the stock market that they are investing in, but it's just a whole bunch of them. So if you were in a healthcare index fund, you might have like Johnson and Johnson, you might have United Healthcare, you might have all these different companies that are part of the healthcare component. If you're investing in a technology stock, you might have Tesla, you might have Microsoft, you might have Apple, and all of those are part of that particular index fund that you are investing in. So, okay. And she said, yep, talking about the ETF. And then, hold on, Elise says, so that could be used for the 30% of the 70-30 split. No, if you're talking about the split between, you're talking about the split between stocks and bonds are different. So she's more so talking about you splitting it between stocks and bonds. Stocks has kind of become a catch-all for like all the stock market, but the stocks include the index funds, the mutual funds, and that kind of stuff. But the bonds are different. Usually with the bonds, you're getting, it's like, I'm going to use her words exactly. So a bond is a loan to a company or a state. So you have loaned this money to a particular company or a state, like you'll see like locally, you know, the different bonds that are funding different projects in the community and stuff like that. That was a bond that you paid into or you decided to pay into that funded this particular project. When the city or the state or whatever, the municipal makes money off of that particular project, they are paying you back a portion from the interest that they've accumulated and everything. So it's a loan that you're making to a company versus a stock is just a portion of the company that you're buying. And that's why it's more volatile. So as the company becomes more profitable, then that stock can go up. And then you essentially, since you have a portion of it, you're making more money. Versus the bond, you don't make as much money because that project is not going to, it shouldn't increase. Like, so if they have a project and it's $1 million project, the project should not increase to $2 million or whatever. So you're giving them, let's say you've invested $10,000 into that 1 million project. And then because you have loaned them that money, they anticipate making money from that, and they're going to pay you back a portion. And that's also why it takes a little bit longer, or I'm assuming that's why it takes a little bit longer for you to get your money back with the loan. Just think of it, it's a loan. Just like when you loan somebody money, it take a good little while for you to get your money back. And it's not like you're getting a whole bunch back. You're just getting back what you kind of gave them, and maybe if you charge them interest, but it's not a whole lot more or whatever. So that's the mix that she wants you to have when it comes to the stocks versus bonds. The bonds are safer because it's more kind of like guaranteed money, like because the company should pay you back, the state should pay you back, versus the stock. If the company goes down, that stock decreases, you can lose money because you own it. You're owning that portion of it or whatever. So I hope that makes sense. And Leah says, Osmina, for the 110 minus your age and then funding a portion of stocks and a portion of bonds. Yes. So that's what the 30% could be used for the split. Yes, you could use, so your stock investments could be into the index funds. All right. Any other questions? Sorry if I confused y'all, because this stuff, I was learning some of this stuff right along with y'all. And like I said, I still need to go and do some more research. It's like the more you know, the more you realize what you don't know. That's how it is. And what you thought you knew, you actually did not know. So I got to do I gotta do my own homework and find out more information as well. But I hope this is helpful. I hope it helps start somebody on their investment journey, their retirement journey. And if not, like I said, I know I need to look into mine because I don't be paying attention to it and see what I need to change, what I need to increase. And as my kids get older, just finding out more information about what I can do for them. All right, so let's see. Leah says tracking. Yeah, and thanks, Leah, for joining. Y'all, this was Leah's first time. Leah is my friend in real life. So I know Leah for real. April says not confusing at all. And Ann says, thank you. Thank you, Ann. Ann, maybe you can invest your winnings into it. And I'm going to be posting, y'all. I need to get back. I hope y'all are doing your money affirmations. I'm going to start posting some money affirmations so we can continue to get good with your money. And thank you, Tiffany, for joining again. And thank you for joining me last week as well. All right, guys, I'm going to hop off because I got some bills to pay tonight before I go to bed. All right, take care. I will see y'all. Oh, I'm supposed to be doing, real quick, church announcements. I forgot to do that at the beginning. I will be doing Side Hustle Saturday / Small Business Saturday this particular Saturday. So be sure to tune in. I will be going live again. And I think that's it. Also, I'm going to finish up the Get Good with Money. So we're going to wrap it up. And then I'm probably going to take a break. I'm reading another money book, but I'm going to give y'all a little bit of a break and I don't know if I'm going to talk about that one, but we'll see. If y'all want me to talk about the other money book, I can, but we'll see. Thank y'all. April, what you laughing at? You always be laughing at me. She says night. What time? The Side Hustle. Oh, girl, I don't know. It's probably gonna be like around 1 or 1:30. I don't know. I know that sounds bad, but it'll probably be that afternoon after I can get my walk on, get settled, and everything like that. And I'm supposed to be having a guest, so I don't even know if I have a guest. I got to see what time they're going to be available, but it'll probably be around that time. I don't know. Just be on the lookout for it. I'll try and post everything on Friday. All right. Take care, guys. Enjoy the rest of your evening.